Agriculture in the primary sector is extremely important to New Zealand. It's responsible for about $55 billion worth of export earnings last year. It employs 360,000 New Zealanders. Well, the Labour government has put more rules and regulations on rural New Zealand and farmers than any government in the history of New Zealand. Farmers are struggling under the amount of compliance and red tape. Some of them spend 20 to 30% of their time in the Home Office filling out paperwork. That's having a devastating effect. It's making farms less competitive, pushing their costs up and making it harder for them. Next National Government will say no to that. You do need rules, but we need better rules, not more rules. Well, one of the challenges I think that we would see under a Labour Green Maori Party government is more rules and regulations on rural New Zealand that don't focus on the outcomes. That just becomes a cost to farmers, takes them off the farm, stops them innovating. What that means, there'll be fewer farmers, and we've already seen the government announce a year or so ago they wanted to put a new tax on farmers around emissions that would have meant 20% of sheep and beef farmers were out of business, were closing down. That's not good for the New Zealand economy. It's certainly not good for rural New Zealand, and actually is counterproductive. We need rural New Zealand the strongest it can be at the moment to help earn income around the world so that we can pay off the large amount of debt the Labour government's run up. Well, historically, agriculture's contribution to the economy has changed over time, but it still remains extremely important. You've only got to think back to the heydays of New Zealand exports when we sent fresh product, fresh lamb to the United Kingdom. That was a step change in the earning of New Zealanders and their quality of life. Today we've diversified into many markets. The high quality protein that New Zealand produces feeds 40 million people around the world. Well, think of it this way, 400 million people get 10% of their diet from New Zealand farmers. We have an obligation to produce that food efficiently, safely, to sell to the world, and in that way we earn income that allows the government to build schools and hospitals and employ policemen and deliver the public services that Kiwis demand and deserve. Nationals released a number of policies for rural New Zealand that will back them, get farmers out of the office and back on farms, and help grow the rural economy, which in turn grows the New Zealand economy. We're going to make it easier and simpler to be a farmer, but we're also going to make it easier and simpler to meet obligations around the environment, climate change and water quality. Through partnering with farmers, we can get better outcomes across New Zealand. National trust farmers. We don't want to run farms from Wellington. We want farmers to be running their farms themselves as good, responsible New Zealanders.